Grief doesn't always arrive quietly. Sometimes it barges in with others' entitlement, betrayal, manipulation, uninvited, unwanted, and wearing the face of family. When my father passed away, I expected the sadness. What I didn't expect was the cruelty, and certainly not from my husband and his mother. They weren't mourning a man they barely respected. They were calculating how much of his legacy they could grab. And when I learned I was the sole heir to his $35 million estate, it all became clear. This wasn't just the story of a death, it was the story of a revelation. My dad, Richard Caldwell, wasn't flashy. He didn't wear Rolexes or drive foreign cars, but he had something most people don't vision: grit and loyalty. He started Caldwell West, his logistics firm, from a dusty spare bedroom with one phone line and a whiteboard. By the time I was 10, he had an office building, 40 employees, and a reputation for being both ruthless in negotiations and generous with his team. But the thing that made him extraordinary wasn't the money, it was how deeply he loved. After my mom died, he didn't shut down. He became even more present. He was at every school play, every sports event. On Sundays, he made pancakes shaped like animals and explained supply chain modeling with jelly beans. He didn't push me to join the company. He didn't have to. I wanted to. Because when you grow up watching a man build something from scratch with integrity, you want to be part of that story. And eventually I was. I became VP of strategy by 30. And not because I was the boss's daughter. Believe me, if anything, he made things harder for me on purpose. He used to say, "I can't give you everything, but I can give you the tools to earn it." I didn't know at the time he meant everything. I met Andrew at a marketing conference in Chicago. He was magnetic, one of those people who command a room without even trying. He wasn't just confident, he was eloquent, funny, and full of big ideas. We hit it off during a networking dinner. Within 2 months, we were dating. Within a year, engaged. Looking back, it's easy to see the red flags, but at the time, I thought I'd found someone who respected me, who didn't feel threatened by my position, my name, or my success. My dad wasn't thrilled at first. Fast decisions leave long shadows, he warned. But then Andrew charmed him too. He played the role well, asked questions about the company, pretended to care about logistics. He even came to volunteer at our holiday food drive. Our wedding was at my family's estate in the Berkshires. My dad cried when he gave me away. Andrew's mom, Evelyn, sat stone faced in the front row wearing a designer gown and a look that could kill. She didn't smile once, didn't congratulate me. At the rehearsal dinner, I overheard her whisper to Andrew, "She's nice, but she doesn't look like CEO material." Still, I tried with her for years. Birthday gifts, handwritten notes, invites to brunch. One time I even sent her flowers when I knew she had dental surgery. She never once sent a thank you, but I was taught to lead with grace, so I kept trying. 4 months after his pancreatic cancer diagnosis, my dad passed away in his sleep, peacefully, quietly. I held his hand as the heart monitor flatlined. It broke me. The funeral was a blur. White lilies, soft piano music, former employees crying harder than some relatives. Evelyn arrived late in oversized sunglasses. Didn't hug me, didn't speak to me. She left before the service ended. Andrew was present, but distant. He arranged the catering, handled logistics, but never once asked me how I was holding up. That should have been the first alarm bell. Instead, I rationalized it. He's grieving in his own way. 2 days later, my father's lawyer called. I assumed it would be a standard meeting, some trust documents, property details, end of life expenses. I brought my planner and a legal pad. What I wasn't prepared for was what he said. "Lauren, your father left everything to you. You are the sole beneficiary. The company real estate investment accounts. After taxes and settlements, the total value is just over $35 million." I didn't speak for a full minute. I didn't feel rich. I felt nauseous. This wasn't a gift. It was a tombstone carved in dollars, a monument to everything I lost. That night, I was still sitting on the couch with the estate documents spread across the table when Andrew came home. He took one look at the numbers, gave a low whistle, and said, "So it's true. It's all yours." I nodded slowly. He sat beside me, and within seconds, his tone shifted. "We should talk about how to manage it. Obviously, we'll invest a portion, maybe look at that Aspen house you liked. And of course, we need to figure out what we're giving to mom." I turned to him, blinking. "I'm sorry." He looked at me like I'd forgotten something obvious. "My mom, she's family. Half seems fair." I let out a sharp laugh, thinking he was kidding. He wasn't. He doubled down. "She raised me alone. She sacrificed a lot. This money could change her life." My chest tightened. "Andrew, this was left to me by my father. Why would I give half of it to your mother?" "She's our family," he said like I was a child who didn't understand basic math. "She's your family," I corrected. "And she didn't even bother staying through my father's funeral." That was when the gaslighting began. "You're being selfish, Lauren." Selfish. That word stuck in my throat like poison. I had just buried the man who taught me everything, and now the man who once vowed to love and support me was calling me selfish for not handing half of that legacy to a woman who never gave me anything but cold stares. The next morning, my phone rang. Evelyn. I almost didn't answer, but something in me needed to know what she'd say. Her voice was syrupy sweet. "Lauren, sweetheart, Andrew told me the good news. I'm so proud of you. Your father was such a brilliant man." I stayed silent. Then came the real reason for the call. "I know it might feel awkward," she cooed, "but I was thinking we should meet soon and talk numbers. Maybe a few investments. Maybe I finally get that little pied-à-terre I've always dreamed of." Tasteful, of course. My heart pounded. "Evelyn," I said slowly, "my father died less than a week ago. And you want to talk about real estate?" She clicked her tongue. "He would have wanted you to take care of family. That's what good daughters and good wives do." I wanted to scream, but instead I took a breath and said calmly but coldly, "With all due respect, you are not my family. You have no claim to this money. And the fact that you're calling to ask for it while I'm still grieving says more about your character than mine." She was silent for a moment. "Then you've always thought you were too good for us. Let's see how long you last when you're all alone." Click! She hung up. For a few days, there was silence. Not peace, just the eerie kind of silence before a storm. I tried to carry on like normal work meetings, emails, groceries, but I was hyper aware of everything. Every glance from Andrew, every phone buzz. Then it started. First, Evelyn showed up unannounced one morning, dressed like she was going to a country club photo shoot. Silk scarf, oversized sunglasses, and a fake smile stretched too wide. "Oh, darling," she said, walking in like she owned the place. "I brought some listings we could look at. Nothing too crazy, just some beachfront options. Investment ready." I blinked. "Listings." She waved her hand as if I was being silly. "Yes, homes, properties. I've got a great eye for location. We could buy now, renovate, flip them in 2 years. Very boutique, very clean profit." Andrew just stood there letting her talk, nodding like this was reasonable. "Evelyn," I said, my voice sharp, "you are not entitled to a dime, and this conversation is over." She smiled. "We'll talk later. You're just overwhelmed." No, I was outraged. That night, I told Andrew I want the guest keys back. "I don't want your mother entering the house without warning." His response, "She's excited. Don't overreact." Overreact. The second warning sign. I went to my lawyer the next day shaking. "I'm not sure what they are trying to do," I told him. "But I don't feel safe. Not emotionally. Not financially." He didn't flinch. "You're not the first woman to sit in that chair after an inheritance," he said. "But most wait too long to act." "What should I do?" I asked. First, he said, "Install security cameras. Full perimeter, especially your office. Second, change all your passwords, every account. Third, split the funds legally. Keep the inheritance protected under your name. Set up a trust. Now, even if I'm married." He looked me dead in the eye, "especially if you're married." That night, I went home and followed every step. New locks, new passwords, every sensitive document moved to a locked drawer. Cameras hidden discreetly, especially the one in my home office. 2 days later, that camera paid off. I reviewed the footage over lunch. There she was, Evelyn, in my house, in my office, while I was at a meeting. She rifled through drawers, flipped through folders, even opened my laptop. She wasn't just looking around, she was hunting, for what I could only guess. When I confronted her that night, she gave me a toothy grin. Oh, Lauren, I was just looking for stationery. Andrew said you keep notepads in there. Her hand had been on the drawer where I stored the trust paperwork. Next time I said coldly ask, or don't come at all. She shrugged like I was the rude one. I locked the drawer, again, changed passwords, again, backed up footage to 2 locations. I didn't tell Andrew. Yet. But Andrew wasn't clueless, not entirely. He'd noticed the mood shift, so he changed tactics. Suddenly he was sweet again, bought flowers, made my favorite dinner, offered to plan a weekend getaway to clear our heads. It was so textbook it almost made me laugh. I declined. I have too much on my plate, I said. He didn't push it, but the warmth in his eyes vanished for a fraction of a second, just long enough for me to see what was underneath. The next morning, I noticed my laptop slightly ajar. I never leave it open. I checked login attempts 2 failed. The webcam light had come on at 3:12 a.m. That was enough. I didn't confront him. I prepared. I called my lawyer again. I need a second attorney, I said, one who specializes in high net worth divorces. He gave me 3 names. Over the next week, I built an airtight wall around myself. The trust was finalized, half of the inheritance legally untouchable, the rest segmented, protected, documented. I kept a journal, logged every interaction, installed an app that secretly recorded audio, and then I made the boldest move yet. I hired a private investigator. It took less than a week for the PI to return a report. Evelyn was drowning in debt. Over $250,000 in unpaid credit cards. 2 failed luxury skincare companies. She had applied for a business loan 2 months prior, using Andrew as her reference. That's why they wanted the money. Not for family, not for legacy, for rescue. I felt sick. And I felt vindicated. Because now it was no longer suspicion, it was fact. One morning I walked into the kitchen. Evelyn was there barefoot in a silk robe drinking coffee like she lived there. She looked up. We need to talk. I didn't move, you need to leave. She didn't flinch. You're under stress, I understand, but don't let grief cloud your judgment. You're going to make a huge financial mistake. I stepped closer. You mean not giving you millions? She narrowed her eyes. Careful, it's not wise to make enemies in your own home. That was it. I picked up the phone, called my lawyer. It's time. I didn't tell Andrew anything that night. Instead, I texted him. Let's meet tomorrow, 10 a.m., at the cafe near the park. Neutral ground, public, safe. He responded with a thumbs up emoji. I arrived 15 minutes early, sat at the corner booth back against the wall where I could see every exit. In my bag, a manila folder and a flash drive. He arrived 5 minutes late in his usual business casual charm armor. Hey, babe, he said like nothing had happened. I didn't smile. I placed the folder on the table. He looked down. What's this? Divorce papers. He blinked. What? I'm filing for divorce, effective immediately. Lauren, come on, over money. I met his eyes, calm, clear. No, over betrayal, over your mother breaking into my office, over you calling me greedy for protecting what my father left me, over watching the man I married treat me like a wallet instead of a wife. He laughed once, bitter, confused. You're serious. I slid the flash drive across the table. What's this? He asked. Evidence. Your mother searching my files. You attempting to access my laptop. Audio recordings, surveillance footage, financial documentation. I suggest you give it to your lawyer. His face changed, not fear, rage. You set us up. No, I said quietly. You set yourself up. I just paid attention. I stood, picked up my coat, and said one last thing before walking out. Tell your mother she'll need a new retirement plan. The next month was quiet but not easy. There were lawyers, paperwork, asset protections, relocation of funds, real estate adjustments, even a change of locks again. But it was mine. All of it, my peace, my name, my future. Evelyn tried once more, sent a handwritten letter. In it, she said, "Women like you always end up alone." She was wrong. I ended up free. Andrew tried once too, called me in the middle of the night, drunk, crying. I didn't mean for it to get this far. But it wasn't a mistake, it was a pattern. And patterns don't lie. I took a sabbatical from Caldwell West. Not because I couldn't lead, but because I needed space. Healing isn't passive, it's intentional. I used part of the inheritance to create a scholarship in my father's name for first generation business students, full tuition with mentorship. I built something better than a company. I built continuity. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt truly safe. Not because I had wealth, but because I had boundaries. People think grief is about loss. Sometimes it's about clarity. When my father died, I thought the worst had already happened. But what I learned was this: grief doesn't break people, it reveals them. Andrew and Evelyn weren't changed by money, they were exposed by it. And I wasn't destroyed by betrayal, I was delivered by it. Because walking away wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. I didn't just protect an inheritance, I protected my identity, my father's trust, my future. And if you're ever in a moment like mine, standing between betrayal and your own peace, I hope you remember this. You're not selfish for saying no, you're smart, you're worthy, and you are allowed to walk away. After the confrontation at the cafe and the official filing, you'd think I'd feel triumphant. I didn't. I felt hollow. For years, I thought Andrew and I were building a life. But I'd been laying bricks alone while he stood in the background, waiting for the right moment to claim the house. The silence of a home without him was oddly louder than his presence ever was. His mug still sat in the sink. His cologne still lingered on his closet door, but it wasn't sadness I felt, it was clarity. I wasn't missing him. I was mourning the illusion of him. It's a strange kind of heartbreak when you don't miss the person, just the version of them you thought was real. When news of the divorce and the inheritance leaked, because things like this always leak, I got flooded with messages, emails, LinkedIn DMs, even handwritten letters. But what surprised me most weren't the condolences, it was the echo. My brother tried to sue me for our grandmother's house. My fiance left me when I refused to split my dad's company with him. My cousin faked affection for years, waiting for my mom to die. I only realized when she asked how the will was worded while we were still at the hospital. It wasn't just my story, it was common. And that broke my heart in a different way. So I started researching. Psychologists have a term for what I experienced. It's called sudden resource attachment. When someone close to you comes into money, especially through inheritance, those around them unconsciously reframe their role. Love becomes negotiation. Loyalty becomes entitlement. People don't turn greedy, they reveal that they always were. And women statistically are disproportionately pressured to share inherited wealth. We're taught to nurture, to provide. Refusing to hand over millions isn't seen as protective. It's seen as cold. I wasn't cold. I was awake. Just when I thought it was over, Evelyn tried one last tactic. She filed a petition through her attorney requesting emergency familial consideration for financial dependency, a niche legal loophole sometimes used to guilt heirs into paying out to close relatives. Her claim: Lauren had become like a daughter to her. She had relied on this relationship financially and emotionally and expected to be supported after the passing of Lauren's father. My lawyer laughed out loud when he read it. "I've seen creative," he said. "This is theatrical. We crushed it in mediation." But I'll never forget what Evelyn said to me in the hallway outside the courthouse. "You could have been my daughter." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Then you should have treated me like one." Month passed. I moved out of the house, sold it, donated half the proceeds to a women's legal defense fund. I traveled to places my dad and I once dreamed of: the Scottish Highlands, Kyoto in spring, the coast of Amalfi in September. I didn't go to escape. I went to remember who I was before this all happened. And somewhere between a train ride through Norway and a quiet evening on a balcony in Florence, I realized this wasn't the end of my story. It was just the end of their chapter in it. If you take nothing else from this story, take this. Money doesn't corrupt people, it just amplifies who they already are. If someone values you, they'll do it whether you're broke or sitting on a $35 million empire. And if they don't, no amount of generosity will make them loyal. I didn't lose a husband, I lost a liar. And in the process, I found a truth I'll never forget. The most expensive thing you can give the wrong person is access. Guard your name, guard your peace, and never apologize for protecting what someone else didn't help build.